All right, and welcome to Hat-Trick Sports Talk. We're back after a few weeks. I'm joined, as always, by Shane and Brandon. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Reaching you from the beaches to the other beaches.
What?
God.
I don't know.
What was that?
I was just excited It's been so long. I was excited to get on here and just get back at
Been
it.
like 3 weeks.
You're listening to WKXY, The Beach.
I was trying to think of something that rhymed with beaches, but I was like, other beaches.
We're here with Hat-Trick Sports Talk on WKXY with Shane, Robert, and Brannan.
What is
It's been a
happening?
wild week, ladies and gentlemen. Final Four is coming up. I mean, what?
Oh my God! Speaking of the Final Four, let's talk some March Madness to begin the show. Speaking of the Final Four, let's talk about March Madness. Okay, so Brandon, I'll start with you. Give me your overarching thoughts on the tournament, the Indiana bubble or the Indianapolis bubble. What has been your thoughts on the tournament so far?
If this March Madness had a subtitle, it would be called March Madness, Indiana Madness. Rise of the crappy teams.
Rise of the doubles, rise of the above 10 seed or whatever it is, double-digit seeds.
It would be called March Madness, Indiana Madness, Rise of the Underdog, because good Lord, there's been a lot of underdogs winning this year. I mean, you got
Oral Roberts, which is the main one we're gonna get to.
I mean,
Loyola Chicago.
Fascinating. But here's the thing: Loyola Chicago is not. I have an argument for Loyola Chicago. Loyola Chicago should not have been an 8 seed.
No, they should not have
This
been.
is
That
a
was
situation that bothers me every year with how March Madness seeds, with how the NCAA seeds teams. They always they go, the teams that are the usual great teams, they put them at the 1s, the 2s, the 3s, and they'll do the teams that will be amazing that year, and they'll put them at the 1s, the 2s, and 3s. But then you have teams like Loyola Chicago that are very small teams that have done really good this season, and then just go, oh, they've been okay, so they'll just be an 8 seed.
You know what makes it even funnier too? You know what makes it even funnier too? This year, because it's in Indiana, you know how the seeds are normally like, for example, the West is in Spokane, the Midwest, I don't know, let's say Indy, for instance. They usually seed a lot based on location, at least for the top seeds, and a lot of that gets jumbled. This year for March Madness, because it's all in Indiana, this is seeded basically 1 through 68, depending on the committee.
Yeah.
That's literally what it's seeded as.
Like, there are 3 Texas schools in this tournament, and they're all in different.
Well, that's always been the case, but I'm saying in terms of how they seeded, for example, the 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Then you have interesting teams like Oregon State, who was said to be the 12th best team this year in the Pac-12 in the preseason, and now they're just running wild
in the Sweet 16.
So we have how many? So we have UCLA, we have Oregon State, we have
Oregon, who
USC
once again got
Oregon.
Help from COVID.
Yeah, I mean, look, that whole VCU situation was a bit of a mess and pretty frustrating. But I mean, I don't know if it gave them an advantage though, because I mean, even Virginia had a 9. That's one of the weird things about COVID with this tournament. Virginia had a 9-day stop between the ACC tournament when they had to jump out the ACC tournament to that round 1 matchup, and they lost to Ohio. And even, I mean, there were teams in November and December that had 27, 29, 30-day pauses, 36-day pauses between games. I don't even know if there's a real argument if the pauses have certainly made an effect in terms of the quality of teams. This is partially why we've gotten so many upsets. But I don't think you can necessarily make an argument for Oregon because they had time off or extra time off when Virginia had a longer time off. They had 9 days and they still lost to Ohio.
Oh, same. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, Oregon, I kid around about that, but let's be honest. I don't think anybody really expected VCU to beat Oregon.
Right. But you never know. That's the sad part is you never know with the tournament. Right?
I never had Oregon and USC beating Kansas and Iowa respectively. Like, USC smacked Kansas.
Yeah, no, and that's part of what's weird. Like the left side of the bracket has been so normal, virtually normal, other than Abilene Christian, maybe UCLA, but Juzang's been incredible. Maryland is a great defensive team. The left side's been fine. The right has been ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, North Texas, who I had North Texas. I also had Oregon. I like Oregon just because, great coaching staff that's been there for a few years. Texas Tech actually had going to the Final Four, but I don't think anyone expected Oral Roberts to get a win. Loyola Chicago, I don't think anyone was expecting, even though, as Brandon said, they've been better. Syracuse with Buddy Boeheim, the
Rutgers,
father-son, like, dang,
yeah.
they're basically the warriors of this tournament because of how much Buddy Boeheim hits threes. And Rutgers has been nice.
Really knocked out Houston.
Yeah.
So. And then also the fact that Wichita State was an 11 seed, like, it's weird.
It's definitely been a weird tournament. I think the main upset team here is Oral Roberts. And it gets me back to this overall point of March Madness is never really about the stars. Like, for example, Kade Cunningham lost in the second round. It's never about stars, it's about complete teams. And that's what you've seen with Oral Roberts, and even more so with Loyola Chicago, who I believe after that game on Sunday, they were like the third best odds to win the whole thing, which is a little surprising. But Shane, what are your thoughts on that whole complete team versus one future NBA star like Kade Cunningham, for instance?
Well, I mean, I think the big thing about Loyola Chicago is that they have Sister Jean, who is just a good luck charm, I'm convinced. But
we love Sister Jean on this program.
I thought she passed away, and I was kind of sad. But then I saw her in the audience, and I was like, yes. No. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, and I think that it just goes to show that. Because we're kind of seeing this in the NBA as well, where you have a team like Milwaukee, for instance, who has that star who's really, I mean, Giannis is a tremendous player, obviously. But then, besides him, I mean, they got Middleton, who's usually good. But it's kind of, you know what I mean? Like, the team overall is a little weak, and as a result they just don't really, especially come playoff time, they just don't do well. And I think we're seeing that here as well. I mean, it's you got like Oral Roberts. I mean, like you said, I don't think anybody was expecting them to win, and I certainly wasn't. I mean, I had Ohio State in my Sweet 16, I think. So it's yeah. I mean, there's just so many upsets, and it's like there's, like you said, the left side is. I mean, there's a few here and there that are kind of surprising, but I mean, it's like Loyola Chicago, Oral Roberts, Syracuse, Oregon State. I really wasn't expecting to make it this far. Yeah, I mean, it has been crazy, but I mean, that's kind of the point of the name.
the Pac-12 too. I mean, speaking of Oregon State, I think they're still undefeated, right? At this point, the Pac-12, I believe 8-0, 9-0, and then the Big Ten only has Michigan left, and I think that's pretty much it.
I think
Michigan's the last standing.
Yeah, so everyone says, the Big Ten is the best conference, and then here's the Pac-12 just running right through it. And then
the only team in the Pac-12 that's been knocked out is Colorado.
Right, so not undefeated, but just Colorado.
But still, Oregon, USC, UCLA, Oregon State.
Yeah.
So and I think that's probably the biggest story of the tournament from a wider perspective in terms of conferences. The Big Ten is the dominant conference in college basketball, yet the conference, not even in, I would say, basketball, but also in football. I mean, you see how the Pac-12 is treated also from a football sense as well. I mean, that's pretty much every sport for the Pac-12. But they have shown out in this tournament and played pretty competitively and have dominated teams like the Blue Bloods, like Kansas, for instance. and that's been a huge surprise.
And here's my thing. I thought this might happen when you have a tournament where you don't have your usual guys like the Dukes and the
you got North Carolina losing the first round.
Right.
So
when you have North Carolina out and you don't have the Dukes and you don't have the true, Kansas going out in the second round and
Michigan State, they've been good recently.
South Carolina going out.
Michigan is like one of the main blue bloods left.
But no, UCLA, honestly, Michigan hasn't really become a blue blood until 2 years ago.
UCLA you can put there, but it's not that much. Like there's not really any blue bloods. Yeah, and
Gonzaga and Kansas were the only two, and honestly, I don't think anyone's gonna beat Gonzaga. I think they're just gonna have a field day.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And here's my thing with Gonzaga too. Gonzaga we saw this on Selection Sunday. We were like, oh my God, this West Side is so easy. And it is. It's gotten even easier. The whole left side, I would say, is fairly easy unless they see Michigan. The only team that even gives them competition is Baylor in the final. I think that's probably it. And even then, Gonzaga's above them by a tier.
Gonzaga's beaten pretty much everybody who's even a competition this year.
Yeah.
I always have a hard time putting, when March Madness comes around, I have a hard time saying that no matter how good they are, predicting them to win the championship, just because, they never do, because no matter how good they are, at the end of the day, they're not a Power 5 team. But I think
does it matter? Has it ever mattered for Gonzaga under Mark Few, Shane? That's never mattered.
Well, they haven't been able to get it done.
That's the thing.
He's never won it. They've gotten there. They got there last year, or last time there was a tournament.
I think.
Or was it 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago. Yep.
Yeah. They got there. They looked like they should have been able to get it done, but they didn't. So, and here's the thing. Gonzaga, honestly, is the reason that UW doesn't recruit amazingly in Washington.
That is true.
Gonzaga steals all the amazing recruits from Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And then also goes out of state and takes all the good recruits.
Jalen Suggs, baby.
I think at one point Washington was able to recruit just off of being a Power 5 school and being a very good basketball school. And
there was a period of time where they had.
Yeah, I saw someone tweet today. They shouldn't be going to the transfer portal. They should be going to the coach portal. And I don't think that's very fair, because I think this year was just this year was a rough year for UW, in that we lost our best player. We had a lot of players kind of jump ship. So, I don't know.
It's not the best year to evaluate them, but there was a period, it was, oh my God. It was Michael Porter. Remember when Michael Porter came and then he left and went to Missouri? I think that's kind of where he got hurt, but there's a period of time for Washington where they've been good, but it's never been the most perfect of basketball programs. But you see teams even like Rutgers, right? Rutgers has never been one of those teams that has had an amazing program. And I think one thing that's great about the tournament is you see a lot of these teams just turn it around. And it takes a while, but some of these coaches are really committed to building programs. Like you saw Shaka Smart do that at VCU. Now he's in Texas, and it's kind of been rough. Of course, bigger expectations, but you see a lot of coaches do that, and I think that could be something that could be an argument for UW moving forward.
And I'm thrilled to see the Pac-12 doing so well in basketball, because hopefully, you've seen other schools use basketball to bring seriousness back to their conference. So.
And it's not, and that goes for that goes not only for the Power Five but also for the mid majors as well. The main player of this tournament, of course, is Kade Cunningham. He will be the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft without question come June. My impression of him so far, I think the main thing is his command of the floor for me. I love how he commands the floor. These March Madness games haven't been a perfect representation of him. The Baylor games have been a lot better for him, but he also has a really pure shot. He's not one of those guys like Lonzo or LaMelo coming out at a point guard position, not comparing it to them necessarily. I'm not sure exactly what his ceiling is in the NBA yet. I haven't watched him as much, but I love his shot. I love his command of the floor, and I love his shot. And those are two things that is so important to have when you get in the NBA. I don't know where he'll go. I think where he'll go depends. I don't know. We'll see. Well, obviously it depends on the lottery, but I wonder if a team is going to look at Kade and say, oh yeah, we can build around this guy as our point guard with the guys we already have. I'm not sure what the best teams for that is right now, but we'll talk about it more as we get to the NBA offseason. But Kade has certainly been impressive. What are your guys' thoughts on watching him play in the tournament?
I personally think he's going to have a little bit of a rough time in his first year or so in the NBA, because he's the type of player that is like so used to being the leader, and he's used to being the guy, expected to just take all the shots every time. Honestly, Kade Cunningham, you know who he would benefit from going? There's no way he'll go there, but he'd benefit from going to the Warriors.
I was going to say that.
There's no way in hell he'll get to the Warriors. But if he was able to get to the Warriors, I think if he was able to be under the tutelage of Steph, I think Steph Curry could teach him how to be a level-headed, understanding player, teach him to lead. Because the problem is you see so many players coming from college to the pros in basketball, and it's the same thing in the NFL. You got guys who are expected to be the best, be the all-stars, be the leaders, be the superstars on teams that are pretty mediocre in total, but they have like 1 or 2 all-star players, and then they go to the leagues, to the pros, and they aren't expected to be the all-stars, to be the dominant player, and they get pushed out of the league in a couple of years. They fail out.
Also, I think the Warriors have the Timberwolves pick next year. They do. So that's
maybe
interesting. It's interesting. In terms of places that would be kind of fun, I think Orlando has a chance to be fun, especially if Aaron Gordon leaves. Wizards, maybe. Cleveland, I assume, Brandon, you would love to have him in Toronto if you can get him.
I mean, yeah, but like, again, the problem that Toronto has is they're gonna have to somehow find themselves a lottery pick, because
they're gonna have to get younger.
They're gonna have to win the lottery, and that's not gonna happen this year because they're on pace to be like not terrible but mediocre.
Yeah. Houston, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think we'll see in the next 24 hours where is Houston's mind at. We know that they're tanking, but
I truly would love to see him go to the Warriors.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know how likely that is.
I mean, it's not. I mean, again, maybe the Warriors will get bullshit lucky and get especially
one when they got Wiseman last year too,
and they'll win the lottery this year. But like, if he goes to the Warriors, I think the Warriors are honest. Maybe there's a couple other teams that he would like be able to be taught how to be a leader.
Kings with him, Halliburton, and De'Aaron Fox?
No. What I'm thinking about is him in terms of like going to a team where he's not going to be expected to lead right away.
Yeah, I mean,
because
I guess
he needs to go somewhere where he's not going to be like forced into the leadership role. Because honestly, that's where players fail. If they're forced in the leadership role where the lights are brightest in the NBA, that's a whole different game than college.
Yeah. Kings could be fun. I don't know what they're going to do with Buddy Hield and Harrison Barnes. I assume Harrison Barnes is going to get traded here in the next 24 hours, probably. but I know it's a bunch of guard
interesting.
play, but Halliburton can kind of do everything. He's a bit, Bill Simmons talked about this. Cade's a bit Halliburton-y. Like he could play, he could be fine off the bench. He could do stuff like Halliburton does. There's potential there.
What about the Suns?
The Suns? I mean, they're
They're
right now.
I
mean, I'm looking at maybe the Thunder too, maybe the Pels. The Pels have been a weird team this year, so Cade could be fun there, depending if they move Alonzo or not, which could happen here. I don't know. It's interesting. There's a lot of options. I think Houston is probably the most likely once we get to the lottery. I don't know how much I like that, but
I think Houston's worst case scenario. Although I don't even know if Houston's going for a Cade Otton guy.
I mean, look, if you have the number 1 pick, you're drafting him. It's that simple.
What a sad time to be a Houston fan.
I know.
Yeah, Victor Oladipo
can't even talk to me about. No.
No. I'm just
don't talk to me about sad fan bases. I was a Raptors fan for like a long ass time before they even got good.
No, I just mean because like a year ago, they had a playoff NFL team, a playoff NBA team, and now they have the most hated baseball team in the country, which
true,
they deserve it, but the fans don't. One of the worst football teams and one of the worst basketball teams.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyways,
actually, you know what? Let's get straight to the deadline since we're talking about the NBA here. Recent news just of a few hours ago: Drummond to the Knicks. Thoughts on that?
Interesting. It'd be a very Knicks pickup.
Well, here's my thing though. Nothing that the Knicks have done this year has been Knicks worthy.
Well, that's why they would need to get Andre Drummond, because then they need to fill their Knicks worthy quota. They need to fill their one dumb move of the year.
I don't think it's a dumb move. I mean, he's only got 1 year left on his deal. Him and Mitch Robb splitting time isn't perfect.
Let's be honest here. Are they really in a position to be picking up guys to make a run?
Yes.
No,
they should make a playoff
they're
run.
not.
They should make a playoff run.
You cannot be serious. Shane,
what's the record again?
They're
good this year. They've been nice.
They're good, but they're not gonna make a run.
See the standings again.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
Let's think about this.
Shane,
I don't know if I'm going to be in the middle here or if I'm going to be on one of your sides.
Shane, here's the deal. Remember, I'm not saying
both of your arguments to me.
Shane, I'm not necessarily saying that they'll win a playoff game, but if I look at the Knicks right now, Shane, keep in mind 7 through 10 is 7 through 10 is a play-in. So be honest with me here. If I'm the Knicks, let's just go for it.
They're just happy to be at 500 right now.
That is true. I will agree with you. They're happy to be 500, but they're a 7.
To be fair, as a Raptors fan, am I in any position to be throwing stones at glass houses? No, probably not. I'm just hoping the Raptors can finish, I don't know, maybe 10, maybe 9. I don't know what they've been doing. See, here's the problem. The Raptors were in a great position, and then some dumbass gave COVID to the Raptors, and freaking Kyle Lowry and
Kyle's gonna get traded.
Siakam got COVID for like 2 weeks before the All-Star break, and then a week after the All-Star break.
Okay.
And then now they're at 18 and 26. So
before we get to Toronto,
I'm a little upset.
Toronto or Tampa Bay before we get to
I was going to say or Tampa Bay.
No, it's Toronto, damn it.
Before we get to that, let's finish with the Knicks. Shane, they are a 7. Now I get it. The East is really bizarre right now. I mean, look at 4 to about where the Raptors
11.
are.
Yeah.
4 it's rough. But if I'm the Knicks and I have Drummond there, I don't know if that looks like they'll trade for him, but maybe even a buyout market for him. Is that really a bad, it's not a Knicks move. This team has done good with Julius Randle. They've been in a lot of close games this year. They had a close game with the Nets last week, close game with Philly a couple days ago. I mean, don't tell me they're not in any position to at least compete for a playoff
Look,
spot.
I'm just making the point. I'm just making the point that I don't think they really need to be making moves to. I don't think this is the year for them to be making moves to make a run. I think this is a team that's like 2 or 3 years away. I think they have a good.
They got Randall for another year.
Then
at what, $20-some million? That's not bad.
Signing him. I don't know. Look, go ahead, sign Andre Drummond. I'm not a Knicks fan, but like, I'll be honest. Connor Rice is a Knicks fan, and he will tell you that would be a very Knicks move, and he'll end up falling on his face and being terrible, like every player who goes to the Knicks does. So,
hey, Julius Randle changed that a bit this year.
Okay,
Do you see what I'm saying, Shane? Like, if you're the Knicks, why not go for it?
I'm more on Robert's side here, Brandon.
Wow.
I hate to break it to you.
I'm offended. I'm actually offended.
Because the thing is,
you have wounded my soul, sir.
The thing is, like, I think the top 3, I think that's pretty much set. You know, I mean, maybe the Nets jump up, or whatever, or Bucks, or who, you know. Regardless, I think they're the top 3. I don't think that's really gonna go anywhere. But like you said, Robert, this 4 to 11, maybe even 12 range.
Nah, let's skip Cleveland. They're gonna do a lot of moves at the deadline. Anything from 12 to the Pistons, don't even touch them.
Okay, so 4 to 11. The 4 to 11 range is gonna go up, down, and sideways between now and the start of the tournament, most likely. So, you know, do the Knicks have a chance? I mean, yeah, they're in 7th right now. They're
gonna make the playoffs right now. I don't think there's a question that they are or not.
At
least the play-in.
Say so
at least the play-in, because they're in a play-in seed right now.
So I think they're they're definitely in a better position than the Bulls. I know that much at least.
The Bulls might drop out. We'll see what happens with Lowry Markkanen and stuff.
The Hornets still worry me, even though they're 5th. I don't know.
They don't have LaMelo for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
so that changes things a lot for their trajectory for what they're going to do tomorrow. Again, we're recording this at 8:00. Right now, it's 8:00 on or a day before the deadline on Tuesday. So keep that in mind that this is before all the moves are done, essentially. So,
yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. And then, you know, if they do get a star, I mean, maybe he will start playing crappy, like Brennan says. It's possible. But, you know, I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and think, okay, well, maybe it works out. And then, I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. That's the thing about the NBA playoffs is, you know, so many teams make it in that it's like,
especially with this year,
you don't even have to be 500 really to make it.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're just kind of okay.
All right, Aaron Gordon. Brandon, Aaron Gordon to the Celtics. After watching, you and I were watching a lot of the Celtics tonight against the Bucks. They're pretty horrible defensively. They've looked ugly all year.
Aaron Gordon back to the. Wasn't he on the Celtics last year?
No, Aaron Gordon, Orlando Magic, right? He requested a trade, so.
Yeah, Aaron Gordon was on the.
No. He's been with Orlando for his whole career.
Who am I thinking of then?
You're thinking of someone else. But do you think Aaron Gordon going there makes sense? Does it help them on the defensive end? Does it help them at all? Like, what do you think is wrong with the Celtics? Because it's been really rocky.
I don't know what to do to help them. You know, it's like they're a weird team this year.
They are.
They really are.
So,
Aaron Gordon, I feel like that could help. Am I wrong to say that they need a Gordon Hayward, which they had and let go? Am I wrong to say that? That is so weird to say when they let him go last year. We're like, okay. But
it's weird because, like, you know, Boston was one of my favorites going into this year for the East. But now, what? like what happened? I don't know. It's weird, but
They were talking about this on the broadcast tonight too. It's letting, Tatum and Brown kind of do everything there. That's maybe why Aaron Gordon makes sense. Take some load off there. I don't know. I don't think the Timberwolves are gonna go for him, as Mark Stein has reported. Gordon's gonna be interesting. I think he'll get moved though. So yeah, but Boston definitely there's not much there, as you said, Shane, and it's been bizarre.
Marcus Smart.
Marcus Smart's been pretty good too. Victor Oladipo. This is the classic case of the Rockets and a lot of other NBA teams essentially overvaluing their players. I don't know if it was the Rockets or maybe it was some other trade, but at least with VO, they're trying to get a couple of firsts and a young player. And I'm like, there ain't no way you're getting that for a guy on an expiring deal who's, by the way, declined 2 4-year pretty mass money deals in the last, 6 to 8 months. So, what do you expect? If you trade for Victor Oladipo, you're getting him for 3 months. And I don't know how much I would pay for that.
Yeah, this whole situation is just really weird. I mean, I don't blame the guy for wanting to leave because I don't know.
It's not wanting to leave. It's just not signing the contracts, which is fair because not like Houston's going to do that much or Indiana was going to do that much with him. He's betting on himself a little bit, but who's going to bet on him for 3 months? Brandon, do you have an idea on who should go after Victor Oladipo? Should it be a team like Boston that goes after him? Maybe, I don't know if Toronto's looking at him, but probably not. But with Victor Oladipo, what are your thoughts on kind of where he's at right now with Houston? Would you give up much, if anything, to get him right now?
No.
Yeah.
Victor Oladipo went to the Rockets and did absolutely nothing. He had a chance to showcase himself as the guy,
and get traded for
and didn't do anything.
Yeah, he's been okay, but it's there's not much there.
I mean, I think a big issue is honestly probably lack of motivation because, I mean, think about it. This guy was in Indiana who has not been great.
first and then Indiana.
Well, yes, and then he gets traded from a bad situation to an even worse situation, and so he's like, "Wow, okay, thanks. Screw all of you guys." You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like if he went to me, it's a lot like the Carson Wentz situation where it's if he went to an organization that believed in him and actually had kind of a good situation, he might start doing well, which a lot of people are saying that about, Carson Wentz in Indy, which, very possible. I don't know. I mean, it's, we like to talk about a player's ability and this and that, but, the mental part of the game is still very big. So I do like to look at that as well, but yeah.
Yeah. Brandon, I'll have you rant about Toronto a little bit more. I know you're pretty frustrated, but so Kyle Lowry basically waved goodbye after the game today. He looks like he's gone. Norman Powell has been in trade talks. We talked about this yesterday with Miami. The Raptors want Tyler Hero because he's on a rookie deal over Duncan Robinson. And that's kind of been the main thing right now, but Philly's also interested. I don't know what they're going to do with both of them, but particularly with Lowry, it looks like he's gone. What have been your overall thoughts on what Toronto is doing? Do you think they're trying to get younger, as we've talked about before? Is that sort of what they're doing with thinking about Hero for the future? Or what are your thoughts on where they're at?
I think they're trying to get younger, and I think they're trying to get smaller, which I don't really get because they showed that they work well when they're bigger. Their team, they need defense. Maybe they're trying to get I think what they're maybe trying to do is trying to get faster and smaller.
But you're still getting up Norman Powell?
That's what Robert, I'm telling you, if they give up Norman Powell, I'm done. I'm done with the Raptors.
Depending on who they pick up.
Robert, Norman Powell is their future.
That is true. And he's been very good this year.
I will lose my mind if they trade Norman Powell. Because if they trade Norman Powell, this team will basically just saying fuck you to the fans.
You're going to be in a rebuild, essentially.
It's basically a rebuild, and I'm like, why? You have Siakam. You have a pretty good team here.
Siakam got pissed with Nick Nurse yesterday, though. That was pretty bad.
Nurse, whatever. I get trading Kyle Lowry, right? He's old. His contract isn't up. He's being paid $30 million a year.
I believe it's 35 this year.
It really doesn't do great things. He's not the same player he used to be.
He's very helpful for a contending team, not for this team.
I don't know why the hell they would be interested in Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero is crap.
He's okay. He's still young. That's the point. He's pretty good.
He's not this player. He's not this player that everybody was like, oh my God, Tyler Hero last year.
He's a developmental guy, and that's what they're looking for.
We don't need another developmental guy. And here's the problem.
Tyler Hero's all that, to be honest.
We're not going to get anything we're not going to get any amazing player in a trade for
would
Kyle Lowry.
If you get Lowry, so let's say this. Let's say Miami gives you a first. Maybe I probably will be one first and Hero. You'd be like, okay. Or would you still rather have Duncan though?
I mean, I feel like you gotta have some sort of a veteran presence,
Yeah.
Do you?
I don't know. Not with this team though.
I still think this team, even without Kyle Lowry, can still make the playoffs. Especially in their division. Everybody forgets how the Raptors have been pretty bad in the first half of the years and played catch up.
There's 30 some games left though.
All they really need. They only need to win maybe 15 of them, and they can be in the
playoffs. Yeah,
playoffs.
Hopefully.
And also, they just need to keep being decent and just let the Chicago Bulls be bad.
Speaking of Chicago, Lauri Markkanen, we'll see what happens with him. There's not really a lot on Lauri Markkanen right now. The whole thing is him and also John Collins as well, which we're looking at here. They both didn't get contracts on the restricted window last summer.
Look, I just don't want the Raptors to get played for a fool. I want the Raptors, if they're going to give up Kyle Lowry, I want them to get back what he's worth, which is a good amount of money. He's a good prospect still. He's for the amount of money that they're paying certain players in this league,
that's what makes it hard for the Lowry trade is because he's still quite expensive. But
I don't know. I don't think they're giving up Norman Powell.
I would hope that they wouldn't, but again, it depends what they get back, right?
I think
if you get I don't think it's likely, but if you get if you get an Aaron Gordon, I don't think you would. Maybe you want Lowry. I mean, I'm kind of mixing all these together.
You'd have to get something. You'd have to get something nuts for.
I don't know nuts.
Norman
See,
Powell.
that's a bit of an over. That's
no.
A bit of an overvalue.
Norman Powell. He's.
Would you do? Let's say the Bulls call you up and say Lauri Markkanen, and and the Raptors accept it. Are you not upset about that? Lauri in the right situation's probably a better player.
I mean, if you want to do Norman Powell and for
I'm
like
just
Markkinen and
together, I
like
can't think.
for Markkinen and like a first, like yeah, because I still think Powell's like more developed.
The thing with Lowry's been injuries, really.
Yeah.
And then let's also talk about Sacramento. Sacramento is always in the news here. Last week they made an offer, Harrison Barnes for Sadiq Bey, that was declined, which makes sense. Sadiq Bey is a rookie on a pretty small rookie deal, and that's part of kind of the stick with a lot of these young players is those rookie deals are so small that it's impossible to trade for much value, if at all. So I don't know. I think Harrison Barnes in a new situation. Maybe Malik Monk needs a new situation. As we're talking about Theron Gordon. Harrison Barnes is always in rumors every year. He could help a team like Boston, I think. But other than that, maybe even Denver, as we're looking at here, I don't know. Sacramento's in a weird place where it's like, do you keep what you have or not? Does it matter if you keep it for this year? It's a tough situation. I think for a lot of these teams, because of the play-in, they feel like they can be competitive and get to the play-in. So it could be. It looks like it's going to be a very active next 24 hours, but it wouldn't surprise me if it isn't, just because teams might be semi-reluctant to move their guys just because they're in a playoff position. Do you guys feel that way, though? Is there a potential for it not to be as hot as it seems? Because I don't see how likely that is at this point, but
I mean, who knows?
it's just because so many teams are in a playoff spot. Sacramento ain't, but
they're just in such a strange situation as is because they're like.
Well, I don't want to honestly talk about Sacramento. I don't want the Raptors to do what Sacramento's done, which is trade away building pieces for no reason.
Yeah.
Like Norman Powell, I see as a building piece. Like, I mean, I'm fine with them trading Lowry because like he's done his time. I want him to go and actually win another one with the team. But like, I mean, he was a key piece. But I mean, the Raptors basically have made it very obvious that they don't have any interest in winning another one anytime soon.
And that's kind of what I said with Toronto for a while is like, I think they're at a position where they realize, we need to get younger. And that's unfortunate, but it's kind of what they're in right now. And honestly, after what happened the last few days, I mean, I'm certain that Siakam has been in conversations. That's another piece. Like, it could get wild for Toronto more than any other team tomorrow. I don't see how likely that really is, other than Lowry and Powell, but we'll see.
I'm gonna be the saddest of boys if they trade Siakam.
I don't think they'll trade Siakam.
Siakam is the one player on that team that they cannot afford to trade.
Right. Yeah.
He is like the building piece. He's the
number one option.
He's the pillar holding up that team.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think it's likely that Siakam gets moved. That's died down, I think, for good reason. I don't think they want to move him, but it could happen. I don't see how likely it is, though. There was another. Bill Simmons talked about this too with the Raptors. That what if the Warriors call up and give you Wiggins? Wiggins for Siakam.
Who?
I don't want Wiggins for Siakam.
I mean,
I don't like it. I don't think it's that good. But like, especially if you get, but that and the Minnesota pick.
No.
Yeah, it's not.
Maybe if you're guaranteed for it to be the number one pick, but like,
which you ain't. Yeah.
Which you can't. But like. No. Maybe if they called that they were stupid enough to be like Powell for Wiggins, like
I mean that's not realistic because of the contract.
Have Powell, we'll take Wiggins, but like it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, that's just a weird one. The Bill Simmons and I'm pretty much everyone just had these weird thoughts of trades, so just want to throw some of those out there that I've heard. Yeah, but other than that, like we'll see tomorrow. I think tomorrow could be just super interesting. Who knows what will occur here in 24 hours. Moving on to some NFL stuff before we go. We want to talk about the Deshaun Watson situation. I wanted to sort of bring it up. Obviously, a lot of the I've read a good portion of the snippet. On ESPN, they have a snippet of every allegation and like the reports. I think it's still up to 16 now of the 24 of the 24 cases of sexual misconduct. A lot of them are pretty gross and pretty disgusting. Virtually all of them are despicable and horrible, and I've read them, and it's, oh my God, it's horrible. But the timeline of this is quite an interesting thing. From 2 weeks ago, we had him potentially being moved to now. From a legality perspective, at least right now, a couple of things. Busby's been bizarre. Who is the person representing the what is potentially going to be 24 woman, as it was, I believe, 22 on Sunday. Now it's up to 24, I believe. Busby's been really bizarre because he said this isn't a publicity stunt during a press conference. This isn't a publicity stunt. This isn't about the money. I mean, like, of course it is about the money. Listen to Mike Florio talk about this. He's done stuff. He's studied law before, so it's really interesting to hear what he said about it. Basically, where we're at now is I don't know if it's going to be a criminal case. It looks like it's going to be civil, but at least from a football perspective, more than likely he's going to be on the commissioner exempt list in 2021. And that's a big deal because now we get to a point where he's going to get traded, where he's going to get traded 2 weeks ago to now the Texans are forced with the decision to cut him or pay him $10 million under the commissioner exempt list. So from a football perspective, it's a rough situation, but also more importantly, the horribleness of the stuff or the cases that we've seen so far. But at least from a football perspective with this conversation, the commissioner exempt list is surely coming, and the Texans have a really important decision to make.
Yeah, I never like talking about this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's important too, just because of the nature of it. And, you know, I is it true? I don't know.
There's way too many. My thought is there's way too many cases. Like regardless of what Busby has done, which I have not liked at all, because I mean he's winning the public opinion battle for good reason, but I mean what Busby did with the press conference I didn't really like, because I like when a lot of this stuff is a bit more private. I think it's more beneficial for the woman and for Deshaun and his camp. But regardless, I think the cases are too big to not believe. And especially if you read the reports and for how bad the reports are, which, I mean, they're really bad. Like some of these are really disgusting, even for me to read. It's hard to not believe.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the fact that it's so many people, you know, it seems bad. You know, that's why I guess, you know, there's going to be an investigation into it. You know, don't know how productive that'll be since it's all just kind of hearsay, but
at least from the NFL's perspective, I mean,
legal.
Right. Legal's going to be a bit more complicated.
Yeah.
But legal, it's going to be criminal or civil. It looks like it's heading towards civil, but even that is going to be rough for Deshaun.
And all, I mean, obviously he's innocent until proven guilty. Mm-hmm. I never want to be someone who says like, oh, the woman's lying or whatever, you know, like I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's a part of me that's, I've seen too many stories of athletes in positions of power get like, you know.
Yeah.
But I've also
it seems fishy because of Busby. That's what the problem is.
No, Robert.
Well,
it seems fishy to me, and it felt fishy to me before I even heard of this guy, because it just came out of nowhere. Just a bunch of like people, and it's not that it was just like it would have been one thing if it was a ton of women all putting in their story all putting in their case at the same time. It's the fact that it was a slow trickle.
Well, I mean, that's normally how it works from a legal perspective.
Usually it's a bunch of women all coming out at the same time.
Mhm.
In cases like this. This was like, it felt like a coordinated like thing. Again, not saying anything, not putting my opinion on anything, not doing whatever. However, if it is true, I don't think this man should play in the NFL.
No, you should
because
be in jail.
he obviously
Yes.
has some major psychological problems.
Oh, 100%.
And also, once again, I would say it's always the people that you think are the most innocent.
That's true.
Look at this man. He's
That's true.
He puts on the whole like religious, like I'm great, like I believe in God, like praise God, all that stuff, and it's like, yeah, sure, you're praising something.
That's why, like, with Antonio Brown, because he had been, he was always kind of a hothead, and he was, really arrogant, and I was never a huge fan of the guy. So then when these allegations when the few allegations came out against him, I mean, I kind of could see it. I was like, yeah, I guess that, makes sense, I guess. But I think part of the problem for me with the whole Deshaun Watson thing is it's like really Deshaun? Because he just, he seems like such a nice guy and whatever, but I mean, like Brennan said, it's it's not, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But yeah, I mean, it's I think honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if, at least as far as the NFL goes, if nothing ever happened. Because
I see him going on the exempt list. I do.
Yeah.
Do you really, Robert?
Yeah.
Especially with the NFL's history of women.
I see. I know, and I think partially, I don't know if that's been the case for their office. The NFL office with the conduct policy, it's not the most laid down thing. And a lot of it is court of public opinion, which is definitely not in his favor right now. I don't see him playing it down in 2021. I just don't. And I think the Texans are going to cut him. I don't think they're going to have a choice.
You think they're going to eat all that cap?
I don't even think they eat how much of the. I mean, I don't know if there's roles in the exempt list how much cap you eat, but like, do you want to pay him $10 million just for him not to play, or would you rather cut him?
I think he still gets money.
He still gets
paid.
Yeah,
guaranteed money.
So, I mean,
it's basically 10 million.
Yeah. So I mean, I from a football perspective, I don't see him playing next year. I don't see it, and it's a huge thing from wanting to get traded to now, but also I just don't think the Texans want to deal with him either. I mean, it's not the best way. I mean, obviously you want to get some value in return, but I mean, I keep going back to the actual cases and what I read, and what I read was despicable and disgusting, and it's still like some of the stuff is horrific. I just don't think the NFL wants to deal with that in any perspective. I don't think the NFL wants to see him on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's, regardless of, if it turns out it's not true, hopefully he can get his career back on track, which, I mean, I'm sure he will, but, look at Antonio Brown. I mean, winning the Super Bowl.
Second ring of his career, by the way.
Yeah. But, if they are true, which, I mean, it's a lot of cases.
Growing by the day.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, if it is true, then justice is served, and the people that were victims are, compensated and can, heal and whatnot, which, it's, I mean, if I haven't seen exactly what I haven't read any of the cases exactly.
Oh
so
my God, they're disgusting. Like they're really bad. The first one, like I read the first one and I was like, oh God. And then I kept reading and I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
If you do want to read them, they're on ESPN.com. If you search up like ESPN.com Deshaun Watson, they have like a case by case list with times and like a snippet of the report. And they're, my God, they're really bad.
Yeah. So, I mean, if that is the case, just hope that they recover and, because it's a big mental scar that leaves and among other things. So, I guess we'll just have to kind of see what happens here in the next couple months or however long, years maybe.
Yeah,
even.
years. And that's the thing. That's how I feel about the exempt list. That's why I think what we're headed to, at least from a football perspective, is the exempt list. Because I don't think this is going to get lasted until September.
In some interesting football news, another member of the Legion of Boom may be retiring. Bruce Irvin last night tweeted, "I think it's time," with the hands claps and prayer emoji.
I saw
and
that.
before he had tweeted last year that if it ain't Seattle, it's time to call it a career.
I'd be surprised.
I don't think this man.
How old is he right now?
He's 35.
Yeah.
And he's coming off a torn Achilles.
Yikes! Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should hang him up.
He's had a great career. You could argue that he's going to be in the Seahawks Hall of Fame. Probably not individually, but as the Legion of Boom. So.
Speaking of the Hawks and the Legion of Boom, there is
rumors of Sherman.
I think the wording was mutual interest on Richard Sherman going back. I mean, Vegas was strong on him early. Of course, we saw the tampering. By the way, nothing was done with that tampering issue. I don't like that at all.
Which tampering issue?
Oh, did you guys not see that?
Oh, you mean the Saints
podcast?
Thing?
The Chris Collinsworth, the Richard Sherman podcast? I don't think anything was done with that. Oh, you didn't see that? This was like Super Bowl week. So Chris Collinsworth has.
Oh, was this the thing with the Saints guy who wanted Russell
Raiders.
to come?
No, Raiders. John Gruden. Gruden was on the podcast. This was like Super Bowl week. Gruden was on the podcast, or this is Pro Bowl week. Maybe that's why we didn't get to it. But Gruden was on the Chris Collinsworth with Richard Sherman podcast, and and John Gruden nonchalantly just says, we would love to have an enforcer on our defense, and like kind of insinuating Richard to come there. And I'm like, dude, that's tampering, and I don't think anything was done with that.
Nothing was done with that one. There was also
tampering is a problem in this.
Yeah,
league.
Early in the off season, you had the situation where, you had early in the off season where you had the situation with what's his face?
Was it New Orleans?
It was New Orleans who basically was saying that they wanted Russell to come.
Yeah, that was more like
which was tampering.
I don't know if it was exactly the team
that was totally tampering.
I know about the mayor thing, but other than that, I don't know much else about it. Let's get to the team that is probably the most active or most interesting because they had, I think, the fifth most money, and that is the New England Patriots. So Joe Thuney left, but the big moves is Matthew Judon, 4 years, $54 million. Jonnu Smith, 4 years, 50. Hunter Henry, 3 years, 37 or 37.5. They brought in Nelson Aguilar, who had a great year in the aforementioned Las Vegas Raiders, 2 years, 22. Brought back Kyle Van Noy, brought in Devon Godshaw as well, brought back David Andrews, Kendrick Bourne as well. They brought in for 3 years, just brought back James White today. They've been super active. I guess the main question is Cam Newton their quarterback? But other than that, Shane, what are your thoughts on this super active free agency for the Patriots? This is the first time we've ever seen Bill Belichick ever have a free agency like this.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing about Belichick is that he's, especially for his age, he's very adaptable, I think. And, he admitted that he's like, look, I'm not the best at drafting skill guys. So instead of doing that, they took advantage of the free agent market. And, last year they had no tight end. Now they have probably the top 5 tight end core in the NFL.
It's probably number 1 for how much they use two tight end sets.
Well, yeah, that's true. And for how much Cam likes to throw to tight ends too,
If it is Cam Newton.
Well, yeah. Assuming.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, like today, I think Cam is really like their only huge hole. And even he is not. I don't think he's terrible. I mean,
he's terrible.
Okay, he's not.
Advanced metrics, he was pretty good.
I don't think.
And how much is he getting paid? He's not getting paid like anything again this year.
No, he's not. The thing, he's not ideal. I don't think. Yeah, he wouldn't be for me at least. But the fact that he didn't have a lot of touchdown passes last year, but look what he had to work with. He had no tight end. I mean, no receivers. The only half decent receiver was Julian Edelman, and he was hurt half the year. So, I mean, now you got Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne, who are both pretty solid guys, and Hunter Henry and Johnny Smith, both top. I would argue top 10 tight ends. Not to mention some great offensive line pickups. Throw in the fact that he can run pretty well. I think Cam will be all right. I do. I really do. At least just for this year. I don't think they should plan to have him around for a while.
I disagree with you. He can't throw the ball. Like he can't.
I mean,
he was not that great throwing the ball, but
no, he's. I'm not saying he's good.
Did you watch him, Shane?
Yes,
he's not even fine.
He threw 320 yards against the Seahawks.
Yeah, that's the only game he had any decency in. You look at him, and he went downhill from that game onwards.
It's also pre-COVID versus post-COVID Cam, which
it doesn't
part of it too.
It doesn't look. Look. You guys are being ridiculous. The man.
I'm not saying that he will
can't
start.
Throw the ball. Like he looks
I'm
like
not
a giant. He looks like a running back shaped like a quarterback. I mean,
shaped like a D lineman.
Half the time, it would be some like trick play, or he would just run the ball, and like give the man credit. He's still a wrecking machine when it comes to running the ball. You put him on the 1 yard line, you're not gonna have a good time, except for when you do the same play 3 times in a row, and then the Seahawks are like, "Aha, brain blast! Let's use our memory. You're not scoring."
Here was his 2020 stat line right here. So nothing crazy.
I mean, 65% completion, decent, but still, 8 touchdown passes, 10 interceptions. He only threw 8 touchdowns.
Is that actually accurate?
That's accurate. He had a lot of running. He had a lot of running touchdowns.
He had like 12.
True. But like, I mean, this guy.
I mean, for the contract, it's not bad. I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and get a Mac Jones or whoever. Heard Mac Jones. Is there something there? Look, this quarterback class is pretty good. Like, they might just take a quarterback at 15 and say, the heck with it. You're a backup. I mean, he's being paid as a backup, basically. Yeah. So I think it really depends on the draft right now. It's not about, it just depends what they do in the draft. If they keep him, sure. I mean, with that team, sure. But yeah, this is really a backup QB contract. So
Yeah.
I mean, if they run with Cam, sure, fine. But with the moves they made, they at least should be thinking about making the playoffs. So maybe it's best to get a rookie out in here. So
I mean, I see him going like 9-7, 10-6, probably.
yeah,
Maybe
Or-
9-7.
I guess there's
10-6, maybe. I don't know.
I guess
it's
there's
too
maybe gonna
early
be another game.
They're
next year.
they're competing against.
or whatever.
They're-
That's gonna be whack.
Their
17
division
games.
is a little tougher though. with
Miami.
and Buffalo.
Buffalo.
So
Buffalo brought in Trubisky to be a backup.
they got the MVP. They're gonna be firing on all cylinders.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of backup quarterbacks, I know this is less of importance, but Shane, Eagles getting
Yeah, they got
Joe
they
Flacco
They're
as their backup for
they're
Jalen
winning the
Hurts.
division now. It's done.
When's your birthday, Shane?
They got May. Why?
I'm gonna have to maybe I'll get you a Joe Flacco jersey for your birthday.
And Eagles Joe Flacco jersey.
No, because Joe Flacco is the greatest quarterback of all time.
Greatest one of the top is he at least a top 5 backup right now? Top 10
backup
quarterback, yeah. Like, is he worth $3.5 million to be a backup?
No, I think the
What? Because that's what they paid him.
I think the best backups right now are
Mitch is not on that list as a backup quarterback just because he's
Mitch.
like Mitch. So the
I
two
thought you meant
guys.
Joe Flacco.
No, yes, both of them.
Oh,
You're looking at like the guys who got signed this year to be backup quarterbacks, like Joe Flacco,
I would say
Mitch Trubisky. Maybe it's gonna be Alex Smith in a backup role. Who knows?
yeah. I would say
We'll have to do the quarterback draft
Ryan
in a
or Taylor Haneke, whoever's the backup there. I would say them. Mariota.
Mariota took a massive pay cut too. I think he's only making 3 this year.
Trubisky, I would say. Flacco, no. Foles. Probably.
Foles. I mean, at that
Yeah.
price, ew.
Yeah, no, not. I'm talking the player, not the price. And 5.
I mean, we'll have to
5.
look. I don't know. We'll have to,
Yeah, I can't think off the top. of my
we
head.
have to do it when we get to the draft and we see
Nate
who actually is.
Mullins. Or Nick Mullins, whatever his name is.
TJ Beathard's not with the team today. Let's talk about the Giants. Kenny Golladay, Adoree Jackson, brought in Kevin Zeitler. Or actually, no, got rid of Kevin Zeitler. He's up in Baltimore. They lost Dalvin Tomlinson as well, but they brought in Golladay, Adoree Jackson, Kyle Rudolph. They brought in John Ross as well. Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad at
Daniel
all.
Jones better step up.
That's the main thing. Brandon, this is a make or break year for Daniel Jones now, right?
I mean,
Shoot.
Daniel Jones. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, you got
he's-
Kenny Golladay. Like, if he can't figure it out with
Yeah.
Golladay, who's
Yeah.
he gonna figure it out with?
Yeah, he doesn't really have any excuses anymore.
And you got a nice 2 tight end.
He's added John Ross.
To be he needed a new spot. So I think this was nice.
Yeah.
Any other teams that you guys were interested in looking at in terms of free agency? We'll get to Seattle as well, but is there any other teams you guys wanted to speak on?
I'm kind of interested in Washington.
Yeah. Washington, let's see. Oh, speaking of Washington, it looks like they'll keep the Washington football team name. A lot of people in the organization have been pretty happy.
I think
with
it's
it.
a great name.
I
you
actually
know?
like it.
It's not a name though.
It's
It's a,
it's a moniker.
It's not a team name. It's just
Oh well, why look at that? The Washington football team just so happen to have the best quarterback ever.
For $10 million.
Fitzmagic.
Now,
Baby.
now let's say this. Let me just say this really quick. Not only did they bring in Fitzy, but they brought in Curtis Samuel on a pretty good contract.
Telling you, Fitzmagic is going to lead this team to the playoffs.
Like, I like the Curtis Samuel move, though. It gives, like, with this offense, to have a versatile weapon like him and that defense, like, it could be nice. Although, Fitzpatrick,
no, it's Fitzmagic.
It's
and I'm telling you, here's the great thing. I'm gonna watch this team, and I'm gonna be so happy when
you're gonna root for them this year.
I'm cheering for them this year. And you know what's gonna happen? They're gonna beat Dallas, and I'm gonna be thrilled when they beat Dallas.
Because they're gonna beat Dallas. Stop.
Because here's the thing.
We should
Dallas
too.
Dallas is underrating Washington right now. There are Dallas fans out there being like, we're gonna beat Washington. Guess what? Washington is the best team in the NFC East.
They are the best team in that division.
There is no conversation. There's no NFC least conversation this year. It is just Giants. I mean, not Giants. It's just Washington.
Giants could make a push, but it really is Washington.
I think the Giants are going to be second.
We need to get to the Cowboys. But, Shane, what are your thoughts on Fitzpatrick and Curtis Samuel going there?
Well, the thing is, like, I like the Fitzpatrick signing because, yeah, he is getting up there in age. And yes, his magic, quote unquote, runs out
after like 3 weeks.
But they have a backup who is a much different player than Fitzpatrick. So, I think you could have kind of an interesting, like, to a Jalen Hurts situation from Alabama, you know what I mean? Where they both kind of...
I think Fitzpatrick is going to start unless they get a new quarterback in the draft, which could happen.
No, I'm just saying, like, they could do that, where they have a situation where they have different strengths that they kind of utilize them both. Not that it will, but honestly, I don't think it'd be a bad idea. Like, I would do that, just so that you don't let Fitz go out there and get beat up all the time. But yeah, I don't know. It's I think this team definitely wins the division, at least right now. Don't know how many games they win, but yeah. And Curtis Samuel, yeah. I mean, they had what's his name? McLaurin.
They still have McLaurin. They have McLaurin and him, which excites me like crazy.
That's what I mean. They had him, and he is good. I feel like they just needed a little more depth, and
they need another guy. So. McLaurin couldn't do everything for that team.
Yeah, and now they got it. So, yeah. I mean, I like what they're cooking up over there in the capital city.
Before we get to your pick, Shane, I do want to talk about Dallas real quick. Because
my pick.
You're gonna pick Dallas on here?
What do you mean?
Oh no, like I'm gonna have you, like I did with Brandon, I'll have you pick a team to talk about. But first, I do want to get to Dallas. Before we do that, Dallas, what? I still don't like the Dak contract.
No, me neither.
It doesn't make any sense, especially when you look at the market. How many guys are signing 1-year deals? Was anybody gonna pay Dak $40-some million?
I mean, it's good that he got his bag.
It's good that he got his bag,
good,
but have fun not making the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, I couldn't care less about Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, good for him. Like, take Jerry for a ride, and yeah, I mean,
it's just I don't get it. Like, why? Like, he wasn't even going to get that much money in the open market. You probably could have gotten him on a cheap 1-year deal, or you could have just tagged him again.
Well, here's the problem: the open market was not going to produce a quarterback of equal caliber.
So you think Washington was just going to go and pay him the same amount of money?
Probably.
Shane, do you think that? Do you think the Bears, Washington, would have paid Dak that money?
No.
Probably.
I don't
By the way,
know.
this is an outdated chart.
A semi-outdated. I haven't
It
pulled up Dak's
says
deal.
it still has Andy Dalton.
Well, it's Andy Dalton going out. It's in and out.
Oh.
Right. So here is his contract. He's getting paid a lot. He's getting paid a lot this year.
$26,400,000 in dead cap.
Yeah, after in that out year, if they decide to cut him, because the fourth year is basically a team option.
Oh, they're totally gonna cut him. I'm already predicting that they're gonna cut him.
But Shane, do you think that Washington or Chicago would have paid this in the open market? Regardless of, like, I don't know what their cap
Probably
situation
not.
is like, but like, no.
I think I've said this to you guys privately, and I know it's controversial, but I don't care. I'm going to say it anyways. I think you're an absolute fool to pay a quarterback more than $25 million a year. No. Just wait. Because if you look at teams that win Super Bowls, what do they all have in common? You have a quarterback on the rookie deal, or you have Tom Brady, who
on a cheap deal.
On a cheap deal, right? So, where does the logic come in? Where you look at it and go, okay, well, let's see. If we want to have a good team, we only have this amount of money to spend. Let's give all of it to this quarterback, and then we won't have any other good players. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. No, you idiots! Like, that's not. Here's the thing. I don't blame the owners and the general managers for signing quarterbacks to these big contracts, because quarterbacks are a bunch of wimps nowadays, and they want all this money.
Well, it's because the market value dictates that they're the most important position on the field, and regardless of this year, $180.5 million this year, but eventually the money's gonna boom in like 2 years.
Know.
So,
but still, like, you don't need that much money. 25 will get you through life just fine.
Tom Brady money.
Because, like, we've seen this with guys like Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. They get frustrated with their team because they're not getting them pieces. It's like, okay, well, if you want pieces, maybe you shouldn't be taking up, a quarter of the freaking cap space, so that you know what I mean. Like, it drives me crazy, but it's fine. This is how it is. So
Shane.
Robert,
here's what I'm saying. For certain contracts, the Dak contract, for instance, the Jared Goff contract, okay, the Carson Wentz contract, coming up, the Baker Mayfield contract.
Yeah,
there is no reason to sign guys in the NFL at the quarterback position. A lot of this, yes, a lot of it goes to the players saying they want a lot of money. But again, that is the market of the position. Honestly, it really is the onus of the owner, the GM, the coach to say, do we 100% believe in the guy to pay him this money? If it's 99, don't. But if it's 100%, regardless of how we pay this guy, we know he'll be here for a long time. We know he can be a franchise quarterback. We know he can win a Super Bowl even under this contract. If you're not sure, why pay it? Because guess what? You're going to be like the Rams, stuck with that contract, them to put on an extra first-round pick or two to get a Matthew Stafford, right? This is why I'm looking at Baker's contract and saying just pay the fifth-year option and wait it out, right? Teams have that luxury. I mean, yeah, players have said like you can opt out, whatever. I don't know how many players would do that. But again, if you're not 100% sure on your guy, like the Chiefs are with Mahomes, to pay him that much money, which honestly, that money is going to get changed as the cap changes. But regardless, if you're not 100% sure, don't pay him. And I feel like with the Cowboys, that's my problem with this contract. They're not 100% sure on him, and he's coming off a major injury. If he's bad to start the year, guess what? You're going to be stuck having to trade this contract to a random team who's desperate for a quarterback. Does that make sense?
Well, that's the problem. Like, I feel like this is just Jerry going. Jerry's an idiot for starters. Okay, that guy should not own anything like the Cowboys. He should just
Smart
go
business
on.
sense with the oil industry, but other than that,
Well, yes, but okay. When it comes to sports, he should just sit in his booth and just enjoy the game, not own the team and do all this crap.
be the GM.
What
I
this
think is the
feels like,
problem.
what this feels like to me, is Jerry Jones saying, "Oh yeah, he's our guy. We're Dallas. We're gonna make a big deal because that's how we do it." Signed it. You know what I mean? It wasn't like. I mean, yeah, there probably were a bunch of people in there saying, "Well, let's think about this." He's like, "Nope, I'm the owner and general manager, Jerry Jones. We're doing this.
Shane.
Oh, I love Dak."
Shane, if he thought that, they would have paid him last year. Jerry didn't believe in him. He still doesn't. Dak and his agent forced it. Dak and his agent
now after the injury.
Dak and his agent forced their hand.
Mm.
They forced Jerry's hand because they were like, "Yo,
You think Jerry really cares?
what? That he paid Dak this money?"
No, that they were doing that. He would have said, "Okay, on to the next guy."
I don't know, but Jerry lost this deal. Like he lost.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Unless they win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years, they lost.
That's not happening.
Big time. Brandon, what are your thoughts on this conversation and like how quarterbacks are paid and things like that, but also like this contract in particular?
I mean, anytime Jerry Jones can get swindled, I'm down for it. That's all I gotta say.
Yep. Shane, what team do you want? Were you impressed with in free agency or would like to speak on?
I'm trying to think. Well, the Bills made some good moves.
Yeah, Bills were okay. I mean, let's look at Buffalo just to see.
What about you? Any teams that impressed you?
Teams that I hated is the one team I want to talk about coming up here. Because I have two. I liked, for example, Arizona. Indy didn't really do a lot with their cap space, but I thought Arizona was good. We'll get to the champs in a bit. So yeah, you know what? I was pretty happy with their free agency moves. What impressed you about what they did?
Well, Emmanuel Sanders, I really, really like for them. That's
he's so old.
I know, but he plays a pretty. He's just gonna play a role for them, especially at that price. That's not bad.
He's so old though.
I know, but
Ryan Fitzpatrick is 39.
Ryan Fitzpatrick is still
though.
good. Emmanuel Sanders is old and runs slow.
That's the point. He's just gonna play like a slot role.
He's old.
Shut up, Brennan. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean that, I think it's like that's the thing, with not this last year, but the year before, I felt like they were lacking a deep threat. Now they got one, Stephon Diggs. And then going into this offseason, I was like, well, they're kind of lacking like that, that good, like slot guy or role player, whatever. And now they got one. So they got him, Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs,
Oh yeah, they brought in Beasley, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then of course they got some good defensive pickups too. Jacob Hollister, I like that. I think he's an underrated tight end personally. But
that was Hollister who they brought in. Yep.
Yeah.
Am I wrong to say that I actually like the Trubisky contract for both sides? I actually like it. $2.5 million.
Yeah, that's not bad.
At backup, he just needed a change of scenery. He got it, and hopefully Josh Allen doesn't go down. Obviously, prayers that doesn't happen. We of course we want to see Josh Allen every week, but Trubisky's a solid backup.
He's a solid backup. Yeah.
For that money, like him getting 2.5, and then Joe Flacco getting 3.5, I like.
He's a Pro Bowler after all.
Are you kidding me?
What? How many good backups are in the league? Talking about a backup quarterback here, not a
Compare him
starter.
to other backups. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
I mean, there's like maybe 3 or 4 that are better than him.
I mean, you're pretty screwed if Allen goes down, but like
Brennan, he's the MVP. I mean, come
the
on.
Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I'm sure Nickelodeon people know so much about.
That was a joke.
Oh,
That must have been a terrible day for him. He loses a playoff game, and we're like, "Oh, here's your reward for playing great, and here's some slime."
They need to actually have slime next year. Like, I want whenever someone scores a touchdown, just a giant bucket of slime gets dumped on them. Then they have to play with slime on them for like for the rest of the game.
The Pro Bowl, flag football Pro Bowl game.
That'd be amazing.
The champs brought back everybody.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to bring back AB too. It's, contract stuff. But they brought back everybody, and the competition's going to be harder next year. They're a contender, but the fact they brought back everyone's a good start.
They're not going to win next year because
it's hard to do.
They really shouldn't have won this year because they got really, really friggin' lucky with their path to the Super Bowl. Like,
somewhat.
You could make the argument that, like, if they had to play anybody else on the path to Super Bowl, hell, if they had the Chiefs.
I mean, they had the Chiefs and they got smacked.
Right. No, here's what I'm saying. If they have the Chiefs with their actual O-line in place.
Even then, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends on what other things happen the rest of the offseason. Because I mean, right now, based on everything that's happening, Tampa's probably my favorite to repeat. Or to win the NFC again, I should say. Mm-hmm. But that could change. I mean, it's, you never know. It is very hard to predict. So we'll see.
Sorry, I'm having some issues with my computer for some reason.
Oh, that's not good.
That is not good. But let's see. So okay, we can talk about Andy Dalton really quick. What?
We have to.
No, what? What? Dalton.
I don't want to talk about Dalton. It makes me angry.
Dalton is going to be the starting quarterback for the Chicago
Bears.
I'd rather have Trubisky.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think Dalton's that bad.
At least Trubisky's mobile.
I don't think. Okay, Dalton actually can throw the ball into it. Oh,
that's fair. That's
fair. He can actually put the ball downfield.
I just think he's regressed a bit.
Yeah, but he's not Trubisky.
Of course,
he's better than Trubisky.
Yeah.
Also, you have to remember this man's being like beat up his entire career.
Dalton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to talk about someone regressing, I think you can cut Dalton a little slack.
But again,
and honestly, I actually think the Bears get better with Dalton.
The Bears get better with Dalton. With Trubisky, yeah, probably, but I mean, I don't know. What? How much better do they get?
I mean, obviously they're not going to win the division as long as Aaron Rodgers is around, but I could see them being like 9-7.
Maybe.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe 10-6.
I don't know. For the record, I would definitely have Dalton over Trubisky. For the record, I would. But
now that I think about it, I probably would too. Yeah.
But at the same time, that's the move that you're making.
I mean, there's not that much option.
Yeah, what were you gonna do?
Draft a quarterback, trade and draft.
I mean,
are you serious? Yes, if I'm the Bears, I'm competitive right now. I have a top 5 defense.
You are not competitive right now. I'm sorry.
I have a top 5 defense.
I mean,
if I have a quarterback, I have a top 5 defense.
You're competitive now with a top 5 defense and a quarterback who can actually win you games.
Dalton ain't gonna win them games. That's why I need a quarterback.
Why
Dalton ain't gonna get into the playoffs.
Why are you sleeping on Dalton?
Did Dalton impress you?
Dalton looked perfectly usable last year.
Usable.
That's all.
Cowboys.
Half the fucking quarterbacks out there don't look usable. I'm sorry.
Half.
Like Jets, their quarterback don't look usable. Jaguars, their quarterback certainly didn't look usable when they didn't have my guy
didn't have the guy who's been in trade rumors and Gardner Minshew all offseason.
When they didn't play him, didn't look usable. The Browns, he's off and on. Baker can be good and he can be bad.
That's the problem with paying him, but yeah.
And then, I mean, Burrow, from what we saw, he looked pretty good.
He'll start week 1, so.
I don't think he's gonna be back week 1. He's still recovering.
Yeah, but he's actually ahead of schedule apparently.
That's a you don't understand, Robert. That's the exact same injury my dad had. That's what took him out of it. That ended his football career. That takes a long time to recover from.
He is reportedly ahead of schedule. Before we get to Seattle, I do want to talk about the Chiefs getting Joe Thuney for 5 years. So they got rid of their line and they got a top 2 lineman in free agency. So that's a positive for the defending AFC.
They don't got much money left, do they?
They do not. They're doing well. They restructured Mahomes' deal somewhat,
but still, it's still going to catch up to them in the future.
Yeah. They're going to have to do a lot of restructuring more than any other team.
They're going to be cutting a lot of players down the line.
Yep.
I'm actually kind of impressed with what the Seahawks are doing, TBH.
It's not.
They didn't, for the amount of money, for the amount of money they started with, I mean, yes, they've cut a lot of players. I don't know who the hell Kerry Hyder is.
Kerry Hyder started 12 games, 14 for the Niners last year.
8.5 sacks.
He started a good amount, but to pay him 16.5 for 3, I'm not happy with that deal.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Apparently, we were quite close to re-signing Griffin.
Yeah, but Jacksonville can't overpay guys because
what I heard, they weren't on the same page
no,
at all.
At the end, at the last second, they were offering a deal close to Griffin. Yeah, but Jacksonville, as you said, Robert, Jacksonville was just in a position to throw money.
Yeah.
Which is gonna so my big moves that I really like, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really like them bringing back Carson on a deal that's not terrible for
it's super cheap. It's ridiculously cheap.
It's really cheap for a guy who I think it's because the market just wasn't.
No, it doesn't exist.
Huge.
It doesn't exist.
I really like them bringing Benson Bayo back, even though he's old.
Cheap deal as well. It's fine.
I'm sad we lost David Moore.
That was an interesting move by Carolina. I like it. I liked it for Carolina a lot.
But also, the fact that the Seahawks, the best move, I think, was picking up Gerald Everett.
That's my favorite move that they did by far.
I really hope that they sign that if he does well this year, that they actually give him maybe a 2-year contract because
he's a good player.
The thing that impresses me about Gerald Everett, and he's impressed me when he was with the Rams, is that he's an athletic tight end who blocks as well as he catches.
Yeah, no, he catches the ball really well. The Seahawks they've always had tight ends that are really good. But because of the depth they've had at tight end and just how they run that offense, I want Gerald Everett to do really well for Seattle just because I think he is a very good player.
I think he will because of the fact that we brought over the guy from passing coordinator from
the Rams, so they know how to use him.
From the Rams, who's now our offensive coordinator.
So hopefully they'll use him a lot because
I really like
Yeah.
Gabe Jackson too.
Yeah, I think those are the two. Gabe Jackson is the steal. I don't know what the hell. I told my dad when I told my dad this. We both were talking to each other, but we were both like, "What are they smoking? What are they doing? They're just giving away linemen. Like they
That's
had one of the best offensive lines last year, and
Vegas,
they had a pretty good one, and they just gave it away. Basically,
Vegas has been an L.
Massive
L. The only move I like here is Yannick Ngakoue. Maybe I kind of like Solomon Thomas. I like John Brown. So I like some of them, but overall it's an L just because I have a question as to what is John Gruden doing? Like Kenyon Drake, 2 years, $11 million when you have Josh Jacobs and Devontae Booker. What are you doing? What's going on here? So yeah, the running back position kind of freaked me out a lot.
Wow, Tack McKinley.
He's going to Cleveland. So they had Tack McKinley for like a year when he got cut or whatever. He's going to Cleveland for a cheap deal. He needs a fresh start, which he kind of got in Vegas. But I don't know what Vegas is doing. Like, yes, I like Yannick Ngakoue. I like the Solomon Thomas move. I kind of like the Quentin Jefferson move. I like the fact they brought back Incognito. But there's just something about what they're doing with the Gabe Jackson move, which I didn't really understand the point to that. He's pretty solid. He'll help Seattle as Brandon, as you talked about before the show, like the fact that they got him and he's not on a terrible contract.
For a fifth round pick.
It's just confusing. What is John Gruden doing? And that's really my biggest question is what is he doing? Because it doesn't make any sense.
This case, it's not really John Gruden. It's
not Mayock.
It's Mayock.
It's not Mayock.
Mayock's the GM.
Mayock's the GM, but you know who gets the 10-year, $100 million deal? It's John Gruden. He runs the show.
Yeah.
And he's doing this.
What do you think, Shane?
What are your thoughts on what Vegas did, Shane?
I don't know. I just think John Gruden should stick to the football part of it and
broadcasting.
Well, yes, and not get involved with all this because he's very, very indecisive, and I mean, he seems like he's just kind of making it up as he goes.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, so
that's how I feel. Yeah.
But he's on a 10-year contract, so, have fun with that, Vegas. Idiots.
Yikes.
Anyways.
Look, I'm not saying I don't like some of the moves because I do like them. But at the same time, there's part of me that goes, what the heck? Jacksonville, they spent like crazy. They actually brought in CJ. I don't mind these. I think the main move is Shaq Griffin. Other than that, and I think Marvin Jones is a really good pickup as well. Roy Robinson Harris is pretty nice. But other than that, they kind of just spent money, and we'll see how it goes. But I think Shaq Griffin is definitely the headline for them, which you already talked about. Baltimore has not gotten receivers, which says something about Baltimore when one guy, let's see.
That's their biggest hole, in my opinion.
It's their biggest hole, and they did nothing with it. I think the biggest, not only surprise, but my nominee for weirdest contract is Juju Smith-Schuster. So it's 1 year, $8 million. He got bigger offers not only from the Ravens, but the Chiefs also went hard for him.
It's a pretty simple reasoning, really.
Which is what?
It's because he could get a bigger contract next year for longer.
I don't think he works in that system anymore.
No, I'm talking about the fact that some team teams don't have a lot of money this year, and
Right. But
thinking,
even with that,
I'll just get a contract this year, and then next year I'll go out and get a bigger one.
Right, but again, my thought is I don't think, like, for example, the Ravens, I forgot what the Ravens contract was. It was like probably like 40, 50, 60 million, something like that. I need to look up those specifics again. But like, I firmly don't believe he's going to put up enough production to get that money next year. I just don't. And Pittsburgh is so good at developing receivers that they don't need him, even for $8 million. Like, yeah, sure, I will bring him back for $8 million. I'm not saying don't, but there's this deal more than any other deal makes no sense to me whatsoever. I just don't see the point. I understand maybe it's a personal thing, and for a lot of these players, it's personal to come back home and all that stuff. I get that. But from a pure football perspective, when you're getting money from two teams, not as much the Chiefs, because I don't think he would have gone the Chiefs, but the Ravens, I mean, arch rival, but still, the Ravens who need receivers, need a number one guy. You come in, you be the number one, you get paid a lot of money. Over this, where you're betting on yourself, but also the team's kind of betting on you too in some ways, it makes no sense to me whatsoever. Shane, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I guess he just is loyal to the team and wants to stay. I don't know. I mean, I would have imagined a guy like him would have jumped at a big contract,
which he got.
Yeah, but he just chose not to, I guess. Which, again, it's weird. I don't understand, but I mean, to me, it just feels like one of the situations where it's like, he sat down and thought about it. He's like, well, do I really want to move and go to a new team with a new system and yada yada yada? He's like, no, I'm good here, So
no, Brandon, I do think in some respects you're right. Like, obviously the market's gonna be bigger, the money's gonna be better. I just don't think he'll do the production. But I think this goes to a bigger point of how many one-year contracts players have signed this year too. It's massive. The amount of players just been like, okay, the money's not there, and I'll just get a 1 year. It's pretty big, and I think it helps teams rather than hurts teams. But a lot of these players are betting on themselves, and I'm not sure how that's going to work. But again, how many teams really had cap space? Last one before we close out, Bud Dupree going to Tennessee, 5 years, $82.5 million. This one's interesting as well, just because Bud had a massive injury last season, and Tennessee still gave him a lot of money. Tennessee was pretty active, but they gave him a lot of money. I don't know how well he's going to play. He doesn't have TJ Watt by him or any of that defense by him. So I'm not sure he's going to hit that production for 5 years, 82.5, but we'll see. Any other ones, or we kind of covered a lot of the major ones? I don't think we missed anything.
Yeah, no.
I think we kind of went through some of the more interesting teams. Before we go off air today, I didn't want to do a small pop culture thing because so Justice League. Zack Snyder's cut of the Justice League has actually been a topic of conversation for us for like the last couple of days, even more since it came out. Now, I've gained an interest in this partially because I think that what happened is a bunch of people on Twitter were so upset about Justice League for good reason, because apparently, as you guys have said, the movie's been pretty bad. But they jumped for this cut. They made the cut, which has been massive. It's a 4-hour-long cut. They made the cut, basically just been like, okay, this is extra money in our pockets. And now they see the success of it, and they're just going to keep doing it. They're just going to keep having different director's cuts just to make money if people hate the movie. And so you just created a new market. I think unintentionally created a new market. And that's kind of my biggest thing, is that people aren't realizing that with this cut, you have created a new market for studios like Warner Brothers to just, for bad movies, get or have another director. Maybe this situation happens again and you just post it up on HBO Max and make a ton of money. That's my biggest problem with this. Is what happened is now there's an unintended consequence of executives are pretty happy now.
No, you freak. I think Shane and I have both to say the same thing about this, but in this case, the executives didn't give a shit. They were basically like, you can do this, but you got to do all the work on it. We're not going to let you do any extra. They didn't want him to do the end scene. They didn't want him to make any hope that there would be a sequel. They didn't want anything saying, oh, there's going to be a sequel or there's going to be any future. There's going to be anything, yada, yada, yada. I don't know.
Explain the backstory for me of why this cut is even a thing, because I think that's an important context.
Basically, the 2017 version sucked big time.
Of Justice
Theatrical
League.
cut.
And Whedon this whole not Whedon.
Yeah, Whedon, right?
Well, Whedon made the theatrical cut.
Okay, I'll explain. So, Zack Snyder was working on the original Justice League back in 2017, and in March 2017, his daughter committed suicide, and so the project was already going bad because Warner Brothers was stepping in and interjecting and saying, "No, change this," because Warner Brothers sucks. So he didn't want to deal with that anymore, and he wanted to take some time off to grieve for his daughter. So he stepped down.
That's really unfortunate. I forgot about that part, man.
Yeah.
That sucks. Yeah.
So then they, instead of just putting the project on hold or, whatever, they hired Joss Whedon, who is the complete opposite of Zack Snyder in terms of a filmmaker. They're nothing alike. They hire him to come in and finish this. So he reshoots a bunch of scenes, and the end product is just this giant discombobulated mess that has no tonal consistency or anything. And Joss Whedon was not credited. It was Zack Snyder's name. So for 4 years, Zack Snyder has been dragged through a river of crap from fans, not me, but people just saying that he's a terrible filmmaker and this and that, whatever.
I mean, to be fair, he is a pretty terrible filmmaker. But
you guys are not big fans.
I think he's okay. I think he's fine.
Really? Okay.
But people were looking at Justice League 2017 and saying, "Oh, this movie was terrible." You know, he's a terrible filmmaker. But then when this extended cut comes out, it turns out that really wasn't his vision. This was, and this actual movie was pretty good. I haven't seen it because I don't have HBO Max, but from what I've heard, it's pretty good. So now, Robert, if you were correct and this ends up becoming a thing, it's one thing if the movie is
dog shit,
is actually bad and they re-release it and it's okay. But I'm going to be mad if Warner Brothers, because knowing Warner Brothers, they would do this because they suck. I will say it again. Warner Brothers is the worst studio in Hollywood.
After you finish this point, I need you to explain why that is the case. Because
how much time do you have? I could go on for hours.
We're not going to do that tonight.
Sucks.
Okay, fine. Fine.
But
you can give me a snippet of it at least.
But if they intentionally intervene and make the theatrical cut bad and tarnish the director's reputation just so they can collect all the money from that and then release the extended cut, then I'm gonna be pissed.
Well, here's why I bring this up as like a huge market thing for executives is I think this happened with Star Wars as well, where there were different Lord of the Rings. This happened. Was it Star Wars as well? This happened, right?
No, Lord of the Rings, they made an extended cut, even like 7 years after the movie came out. People already loved Lord of the Rings, and it was.
But wait, wasn't this with Star Wars too? Wasn't there like another cut or another version for one of the movies?
They did the same shit with
Skywalker.
They did the same shit with Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
Which is like, I still haven't seen it. I should watch the extended version sometime.
It is
apparently it's so much better, but like those movies,
it's good, but
that movie will never be good to me. And
it was a bizarre plot to begin with.
It's the same thing that I feel about Justice League. I will say this: having seen Justice League, I've seen both versions. The first version is bad. Just bad.
It's a train wreck.
It is a train wreck. The second version is not my cup of tea. I don't like Zack Snyder. I don't like his directorial style. I don't like his movies. I think he's over the top. I think he uses too much slow-mo. I think
I agree.
Is pompous. I think he's full of himself. I think he thinks everything has to be dark. Everything has to be serious. Like I'm Zack Snyder. I think all my movies have to have some existential meaning. No, they don't. But I will say this: the movie is okay. It's not the crap fest that the first one was.
It's watchable.
It makes sense. The plot is there.
Yeah.
You can tell. But what makes me the most angry, and I think it makes Shane the most angry as well, is you can tell that this man had a vision that was like ripped out, stomped on, thrown in the garbage by Warner Brothers.
Name on it.
But this gets me back to another question that I have. What value for Warner Brothers as a studio? Why is it that, for example, Warner Brothers, why do studios want to intervene and say this is not, like, why is that a thing?
They didn't even want to intervene in this case. It was literally all the fans petitioning and being like, let Zack Snyder make this fucking movie.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, at that time in 2017, 2016, when they're making the movie, why is
during the theatrical cuts?
During the theatrical cuts, why does it benefit a studio to say, "Oh, let's step in and do this and this and this"? When you're already giving them the funding, just let them make the movie.
It's because at the time, Warner Brothers was working with DC, and they had their own vision for what they wanted the future to look like. And
kind of like with Disney with
and
Marvel,
Zack Snyder wanted to do. See, this is the problem, right? This is the problem. This is one of the I'm a big hater of Disney sometimes, but honestly, Disney, in the case of Marvel, has been very smart. From the beginning, they basically told Marvel, hey, here's your MCU, here's your Marvel company, do your thing. We're not gonna we want to be updated, we want to know what's gonna happen, we want to know what the future of it is, we want to know the profiting and yada 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 yada, but we're not gonna touch it. We're not gonna have our grubby little Disney hands on it. We know that you are the Marvel people, you know what's gonna happen, you know how to do it. The problem here is DC has been warped and touched and groped by Warner Brothers, and basically they've had their hands all over the DC EU. And what I really think about it, it makes a lot of sense why I hate most DC EU movies other than Aquaman and like
I watched Shazam. I like Shazam. I watched
those movies are great.
That was really good.
I really wonder like now whether I would have liked.
Is decent.
Yeah, I wonder if I would have liked the like Man of Steel and all those movies if. Well, like the thing is, I like Man of Steel, and that movie apparently he was able to make as he wanted to make it. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
But I just don't see how it makes sense from an executive perspective. I just don't get it. If you look at what Disney's doing, with Marvel, on top of the fact that Marvel is doing literally Disney Plus with WandaVision and all these other stuff they've had planned for the next 4 or 5 years, like it helps Disney Plus to have that. It helps Disney Plus to have that creative element there, especially when they're trying to keep boosting the platform as well as ESPN Plus and Hulu with the bundle and stuff like that. But like that part of it is why I think you're right. Why people don't like DC, but like why Marvel is so popular is it's just not like Disney. Obviously, I think with Disney Plus, the great thing for Marvel is that they've been able to up the content and say, make as much content as you want.
I think if they had just let him make his movie and then gone ahead with the sequels, they would have made so much money.
Right. That's the part for me that I don't understand. Like, yes, the cuts are going to be helpful, but that's the problem that I have is why not just let him do it in the first place?
I don't know if you know this, Shane, but the original title for Justice League was Justice League Part 1. That was the original title. It was supposed to be Justice League
I didn't know that, but yeah,
Part
that makes
1,
sense.
and then it was going to be Part 2 and Part 3.
Yeah.
And they basically DC, I mean not DC, Warner bastardized it, and but before it even came to start filming, and they were like, it's just that. Well, no, they filmed it. They filmed the first movie, and learning about all this stuff has made me realize just how screwed over Zack Snyder got. He filmed this whole first movie thinking it was going to be a Part 1, and then they were like, nah, just go to the chopping floor, cut all this stuff out, make it just a 1-act movie.
I just don't understand how that benefits the executives then. I just don't get it.
It's because the executives are idiots and they don't understand.
Because they're stupid, greedy dicks.
Because the thing is, I think about it now after seeing this
But being
good...
greedy is letting them do what they want
Robert,
and then make a bunch of money.
It doesn't make any sense to think about it. Because here's the thing. After watching this version, like 4 hours, that's a long time. Maybe cut it down to 3 hours, put that out there. It would have been great.
City Hall, that PBS documentary film, is a half an hour longer than Zack Snyder's.
Because here's the thing. For me, I finished the movie and I went, well, goddamn. I actually kind of liked that. It had heart, it had soul, it introduced all the characters well. It had actual dark side show up. It had all the
Joker.
The Joker I could give or take, but and the ending made me actually hype. Like the ending made me go, oh my god, what's gonna happen next? And then I went, no, there's not gonna be a sequel. Like it made me angry, and I'm still angry. And I'm honestly
and that's how I
like,
want to talk about
and
it.
you know what?
Let's
Honestly, it's gonna make me very unlikely to pay my money to see any more Warner Brothers DC movies, because screw them.
Yeah, they suck.
Shane, what has kind of been your gripe with this overall?
I have a nice warm spot in hell for the executives at Warner.
Yeah.
Aside from that, give me like a aside from those comments and stuff, I just give me like a very wrapped in a ball, like your overall thoughts on sort of what is wrong with the executives and all that stuff. If you're just to put it in a few sentences, like what is it for you?
They don't get it.
They don't care about the people that work there or their creators at all. They just care about fattening their pockets.
You know what the problem?
Very, very clear. They have
what.
You
know what the problem is? They're so used to making IP based movies that they don't have it. They don't make original movies anymore. That they're just used to making IP based films.
Yeah, they just make franchises.
They just make franchises, so they have no creativity. So when somebody actually comes along with some creativity in one of these franchises, they're like, because think about it, Warner wasn't attached to The Dark Knight, the original Dark Knight trilogy. They were not.
I mean, they were the distributor technically.
Yeah, but they weren't.
But they weren't involved.
It was DC, and it was Christopher Nolan, and it was,
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, like the paparazzi. We all hate the paparazzi, right? Warner Brothers created the paparazzi.
Yeah, literally.
I'm not joking.
No, that's not a joke.
Paparazzi. What do you like? The actual paparazzi?
Yeah,
yeah, like the people
back in like what was it? Back in like the
19.
It was like the 40s, I think.
No, it was like the 60s or 70s.
60s or 70s, but like I learned about this when I took film history class, and it was like they literally created it.
Yeah, they hired this group of people called paparazzi, and their original purpose was to, and it wasn't. I think Paramount created them, and their purpose was to kind of protect like their actors' private lives, so that they could, just live a normal life and not be harassed and heckled in public, which is great. But then Warner Brothers was like, you know what we could do? We could instead have these people follow them around and take pictures and make news stories out of it. Yeah. I'm not joking. And
really?
Yeah.
That's such
Warner
interesting
Brothers.
film history. Wow.
There you go. That's
Wow. Anything else interesting happened this week? Before we go,
no,
probably not. Yeah, no,
not really.
Yeah, but I did want to talk about the Snyder Cut just because we've had
I drank
conversations.
ginger ale. That was interesting.
Ginger ale. What are your thoughts on that?
It's same as it's always been.
Canada Dry.
Yeah.
Straight Canada Dry. Yeah. You guys like apple cider vinegar?
I don't know.
There's this. I've been doing a lot of stuff with Trader Joe's, and like getting a lot of random stuff. And there's like this sparkling apple cider vinegar, pretty solid. It has ginger in it, but like you can't taste the ginger. Like I got this like cold press like a few months back, and it was just filled with ginger, and oh my god. And the almond butter almonds are pretty solid, so 10 out of 10 on that. I know it's bizarre, but that's 10 out of 10.
Who would have thought of that?
I gotta get going.
We are gonna head out for the week. We'll see you back here soon. Thanks as always, Shane and Brandon, for joining me. And we will see you back here soon.